بله. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Game Week 12 pod of the FPL Wire. 5 game weeks to the World Cup. I'm your host, Zoph. My co host, Late Riser, and I are joined by our friend, Big Man Bakar. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zoph. Hello, and welcome to all our listeners and viewers. Yeah, decent week, short turnaround, decent green arrow, 59 points for me this week. Looking forward to the games coming thick and fast. Um, Hopefully, can build some momentum and then leave my squad in a reasonable position till we get the break for the World Cup. What about you guys, Pranil? How was your week?
My week was out average. I had 47 points. Arrow was as grey as it could be. Moved like 5 or 10k in position, which is barely insignificant at this point. But a little more introspection to be done with my decision making because I wasn't happy with my move as much. Let's see what happens this week. But I feel like I want to talk a little less when I'm discussing moves with people and just do what I like to do. So, how about you? How was your week?
54 points. The Gehi auto sub was massive with Zuma missing out. That was pretty much the difference between like a decent green and like maybe a small red or gray. Anyways, let's move on to the discussion. Short turnaround, about 24 hours to go. We'll do a sponsor plug and jump right in. Lots to talk about.
Hit the like button, guys.
All data you see on the FPL Wire is taken from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. The new improved members area is now up and running, and the new comparison tool lets you compare key stats for up to 3 players. Player projections are also live, and as always, you can access the custom stats table we create or make one for yourself. Sign up for membership today using our affiliate link in the description below.
Right. Where should we start, guys? I don't think there's much point discussing results from the weekend. Only one game over 2.5 goals, by the way. 10 clean sheets. Right when we said big at the back was dead, the league surprises us. Now with the midweek turnaround, it's always going to be interesting. I don't have the schedule up here. I forgot to add that in, but I think we have that in mind from last week anyway. What shall we start with? Should we talk right at the top about Maddison replacements? Should we talk about Salah first? What do you guys think?
I think Maddison replacements because I think most people own Maddison. So figuring that out, I think, is a good place to start.
Cool. Let's do that then. And I think there are two schools of thought over here, right? Because ultimately, what I was looking at it as a transfer now, either you can go for a short term, 1 week punt, or you can bring in somebody for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. And for that, I brought up the fixture ticker over here. Palace have the best fixtures, but I think most of us want rid of Zaha instead of buying him. So I don't think we can recommend anybody over there. Who do you guys have in mind, Bakar? I'll come to you first.
Trossard is the one who jumps out to me straight away because I mean I've researched this quite a lot as I'm in the market for a replacement myself, and I mean the long-term replacement is Saka and Foden. I mean those are the two that stand out. But there's a school of thought that you can leave Maddison this week and you can potentially buy Saka or Foden next week. I personally don't agree with it because there's very little risk involved in getting Trossard or Mount or Sterling or anyone of that sort, because effectively it's a 2-point hit, right? Because you're giving yourself that opportunity of getting that 11th playable player, because I assume most of us who have Maddison also have like at least 3 from City and Liverpool, and some of us even have James. So I mean, you're giving yourself that extra player. I personally like Trossard this week because of the home fixture. He's been playing closer to goal. He's very confident. I was reading up on his quotes in a recent interview. And I watched that game against Brentford the other day as well. And he was getting into good positions. I like what I saw despite the blank. And I think there's a fixture to target there at home to Forest. When it comes to Mount and Sterling, I'm sure you know better, Zoph. I mean, I don't personally trust Potter with the rotation, especially with midweek. I know Mount has started all games, but it's almost if I won't be surprised if he gets rested. I'm not sure he will, but I mean, there's always a chance. Sterling's a bit expensive, but I think I prefer him to Mount. If I had the funds, I'd probably go to Sterling over Mount because he's more of a goal threat, has the better minutes per XG. But overall, I think Trossard is the one who appeals to me the most. What do you guys think?
Pranal, before we discuss picks yet, I want to go back to what Bakar said about it being a -2. Is something we always hear in blank game weeks. And I know like the first question a lot of people asked us when we put the pod thing is a free hit. I think blanket, let's tackle that first. None of us are keen on using the free hit, even if you have like 6 or 7 players, or do you guys think it is an option?
No, I think the free hit, unless you have James, 3 City, 3 Arsenal. Like, it's a ridiculously bad position where you're, I think, maybe capping at 7 players. Then I feel like, okay, maybe you can consider using the free hit, because there are 4 or 5 players that you can add value, and then you're looking at 4 or 5 players into an average of 3 or 4, looking at 20 points as an upside. Maybe that's worth it. Outside of that, if you're feeling like 8, 9, 10, 11, I have no problems with that. Even if one of them is named Neco Williams, I think you save the free hit, because I think given the fixture schedule, given the World Cup, I think it might throw a few curveballs as well. There might be a bigger opportunity in the future.
Correct. And I don't think there are many fixtures I really look at that scream very high ceilings. Usually we look at one of these top 6 guys versus the bottom sides, and Liverpool are up against West Ham, who are decent opposition. Everton concede a lot of shots but don't concede that many goals. United Spurs could go either way. It has a KG game feel to it. Fulham Villa, you can't even look at picks from either side. Leicester Leeds, I don't even see that the good picks you could even get on the free hit. So I don't think we should spend further time on that. Let's go back now to setting up.
Just worth mentioning though, for people that are on free hit, because a few of our listeners will be on free hit.
Fair.
I think the fixtures to target, I think you go 3 Liverpool, the likes of Trent that nobody owns right now, is a good place to jump. Get a Darwin and
Will
throw
he
the dice, and
start?
obviously get it.
Trent, I don't know. Sorry to interrupt you, because he got only 10 minutes yesterday, and remember, it's like 48 hours since there. He won't be ready to start necessarily suddenly.
I'm just thinking, if you're on free hit, you roll the dice.
I guess,
because
yeah.
Zoph, on the contrary, who else do you think they'll play there? Do you think Milner at this age is fit enough to start like twice in 3 days? I don't think so.
I don't know. They could put square pegs in round holes, but ultimately they won't take a chance with Trent's fitness.
Yeah, it just
Yeah, I think a lot depends on the press conference tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, wait till what Klopp has to say, but I think 3 Liverpool is something you do on your free hit. 3 Newcastle with Wilson in there is something you do on your free hit for sure. Maybe a Chelsea punt or 2 in there, a couple of Fulham guys, Harvey Barnes or Sinistera, and that's your free hit tip. So there is decent enough attackers in there, and I think Liverpool and Newcastle 6 there, and then figure out your other 5 is where I'd go on with my free hit team.
Probably maybe Solanke, maybe Billings. I think that Bournemouth.
Solanke needs to be in there. Southampton were
There are plenty of
atrocious in
options. I mean,
defense.
there are plenty of options when it comes to the strikers. I think I'd personally double up on the Liverpool defense. I mean, Trent and Robertson offer plenty of value.
Yeah.
Because I when you look at the attackers, there are plenty of options. There's Mitrovic, there's Solanke, there's Wilson. We've spoken about. So I mean, there's plenty of variety you can go for on the free hit. Personally, I won't go there again because of the fact that later on in the season, when the blanks are caused
That's established.
by,
We've established.
Let's move on.
it's
Let's not
Yeah.
dawdle on that. Now
Yeah.
going back now, setting up with hits. What's your views on that, Panel?
I think, especially with the Maddo position, right? I think there are 3 or 4 directions that you can go with. Now, what options do you have as an FPL manager? I want to go back to Bakar's point in terms of it being a 2-point hit first, because I don't think it's a 2-point hit, because Trossard in is one transfer, Trossard out is also another transfer.
Correct.
Like, you're spending 2 transfers there for sure, because you're not going to hold Trossard for the next 2 games, and you're going those midfield positions are like gold right now. You don't want to waste the slots there. So that's something that's playing on my mind. Like, so if I have somebody like in my position, if I have somebody like a Patterson or a dead spot, or I do have a Reese, I think a transfer there is a better place to spend a transfer, because we have clear cut 2 options coming in next week who are miles better than everybody else we're going to bring in this week. And I'm talking about Foden and Saka. Everybody who's half a decent FPL manager knows that that's the way to go with your transfers. So if you have other places to spend your transfer, I think go there. If you're looking for 1 week punts, if your team is in a great place, fair enough, I still buy it, but I'm not convinced about any 1 week punts at the moment. But there are a few short-term punts in terms of gameplay that you can do. Now, again, if you're looking for short-term or setting up your team long-term, there are 2 things that you can do. You can downgrade somewhere, go Reese to bottom so that you can get in Mo Salah in your team. That's one option, which is my most preferred option at the moment. Let me be clear about that. I think now is the time to get Salah. He's a clear captaincy option this week. Might be a captaincy option in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Or you go down from Maddison to a 6.5 million price bracket. There are 2 midfielders that I really like in that 6 million price bracket, who are some people are picks I would probably hold for 3, 4, 5 weeks until the World Cup. And they are Rashford and Sinistera. Like, I feel like Sinistera, I thought Leeds were excellent against Arsenal. They deserved to win that game. I think even a draw would have been a harsh result. They got 1.8x XG against Arsenal. That includes the penalty, of course, but they were good. And Leeds are like Leeds of last season, where they will have they will dominate a half at least. It's what they did against Palace. It's what they did against Arsenal. And mind you, it's not easy to dominate and create so many chances against a team like Arsenal. And what I noticed from Sinistera was he was in central positions a lot. So he looked like a good FPL pick to me because he was finding he's got that slight selfish streak about him. And then there is Marcus Rashford as well. I was watching the Europa game and I saw the game yesterday as well. I mean, I think if that header last minute, which was from point blank range, goes in, a lot more people would be talking about Marcus Rashford today. Because I think outcome does affect us as Premier League managers. And yeah, the next two games are against Spurs and Chelsea. But after that, you have a run of games against Villa, Fulham, and there's one more team. What's changed and what's happened with United is A, Rashford looks sharper, and B, how Ten Hag's using him. Ten Hag's using him as absolutely the last man who's tasked with making the runs behind the line. He's tasked him with, if the ball's coming in from one side, he's supposed to be in the center of the box. So to head the ball in or for a tap in, his role is to be on the end of things. And keeping this in mind, I think he's nailed. I think out of the next 5 games, he will play 4 games. If you're worried about rotation, because Ten Hag did mention that he wants to keep the strikers fresh. That's why the question he was asked was, why was Ronaldo subbed off in the 66th minute? And he said, I like to keep my strikers fresh. And he's mentioned that in 3 or 4 press conferences where people were asking me about Antony as a pick. I feel like between Rashford, Antony, and Sancho, there could be a little bit of rotation here and there. But I think Rashford is up there in terms of pecking order, in terms of what he's offering. So these are the directions you have now based on where you foresee. And why going down on money on that Maddison spot might be a good option, because you might want to upgrade a Reece to a Trent who opens up as an option based on Klopp's presser, or you want to spend up front, or you need to generate funds to afford Foden and Saka next week anyway. So future plot your moves, and these are your routes. My first thing would be, if you can get Mo Salah in place, get Mo Salah in place.
I completely agree with you. Now, in terms of strategy, my wrap up.
You were saying that it's effectively 2 transfers. Well, technically, you have to sell Maddison next week for Foden, Saka anyway. So it's still that one extra spare transfer, right? And assuming a lot of us have Martinelli, Cancelo, Haaland on the bench, you're getting that extra 2 points back this week. So it still remains a -2 because you are getting an extra player this week, and it is one extra transfer. I mean, you would back someone like a Trossard to get one return at the very least. So I do think that transfer makes sense. But yes, I mean, if you have like if you have Maddison, James, and Trossard, and Maddison, then you can probably afford to look at each hit in isolation. And I mean, I would personally sell all 3 of them.
Maddison doesn't need to be sold. He has Wolves away, but the run after that is bad. So I do get the point you are making there. But I do agree with what Pranil has to be said. I think in terms of taking hits as an overall strategy, if you need to sell your long-term guys who are gone now, like James, etc., definitely take the hit over there. But otherwise, I think a -4 is probably what I would top out at, not necessarily go too crazy, because I think it's going to be a low-scoring week. I don't see very high scores over there. So just staying there about, even if you can get 7, 8 guys out with a -4, I'd just roll with that rather than trying to max out.
Yeah, just worst thing, it's so stupid from Maddison to do that. It's ridiculous. Terrible from him. But yeah, in terms of where you would go off if you were looking, let's talk about, I think all of us agree that if you can get Mo Salah in place, set up your structure.
Definitely.
And in terms of midterm moves, what do you guys think about Sinistera and Rashford?
Now, let me look at the fixture ticker now. The main thing is, I remember this also, I go back to the time during lockdown. There was this game week where I think a lot of games were getting called off. I got in Bowen, who was playing Arsenal that week, but he had a good run of 5 or 6 fixtures. You guys went for Foden, who was playing Leeds that week. So remember that Bowen had a blank, Foden Hall, but over the next few weeks, Bowen came very useful. But I can't find any player like that who I bring in now, and I have to say that, yes, I'm happy owning him now for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. Only the guy I like there possibly is Mount, but I'm not that convinced by Mount as such. He's landed 2 shots on target over the last 3 game weeks, and that was basically the 2 shots in the Villa game, and he scored from both. And do you think he would even be on our radar if he hadn't seen that Mings mistake? Even the free kick, if you look at it, is essentially not a worldly free kick. It's Martinez misjudging the flight of the ball. He was expecting it to go over the wall. It went the other side. So I've spoken to a few Chelsea guys also who cover a lot of Chelsea. The thing with Mount is he's the only one who started every game under Potter, but he's so pivotal. He was a doubt for this game. He went for a scan on a strain, and apparently he played through the pain. It's not too serious with a short recovery. And the game with Manchester United at the weekend is massive. It's a proper 6-pointer in terms of the UCL race and the whole feel-good factor. So I'm not that convinced Mount starts this one.
And just generally, I mean, I'm worried about investing in Chelsea as FPL options at the moment. I mean, one thing that was telling, which was good from Potter's point of view, was two subs at the halftime mark, and Oba subbed off at the 58th minute. Like, what are the expected minutes of your Chelsea picks? Like, he can literally do anything. It took us 2.5 years of Potter at Brighton to get something remotely close to a first choice. And we're very, very far away from that when it comes to Chelsea. So I'm like, there are enough fish in the pond at the moment to go fishing in the Chelsea pond. That's all this where.
Martin,
Zoph, you're talking about a long-term pick. If I was looking at a long-term pick, reluctantly, I'd probably have to say Bowen. Even though the fact that he has Liverpool this week, he still has Bournemouth
out of
next
two
week.
of next three, it's like Liverpool and Man United. When we are attacking the
which
fixtures at a 5,
exactly.
It doesn't feel like you're attacking the short term enough.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Bowen is still fine, and I for what it's worth, I thought he completely got done by Skamaka because West Ham created a lot. They had 25 shots in that game. And I think there were 3 or 4 chances that Skamaka had which went just wide, which were all Bowen assists. And he was in and around the box as well. So I don't see any downturn in terms of Bowen's performance. And the good thing about Bowen is, again, they should have had a pen the last game, which they didn't get. So penalty is something where you can win a penalty against any opposition. So that's something that could be in the favor. But Sinisterra, the reason I think it might be worth punting on right now is just not because they play Leicester this week. It's Fulham. Leicester followed up by Fulham at home.
Fulham are awful.
So it's a great upside if you're looking at just 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And you don't need to move around with that spot. And let's say you have problems 1 week after the Fulham game, there's Liverpool. After that, you have Bournemouth at home as well. So you can move out after 2 weeks or you can move out after 4 weeks. That option is there with you. That's all. And Rashford is just judging the pick solely. I feel like he is going to be in and amongst 50-60% of United's attacking returns. That's how we've been playing this season.
Fair enough. So let's do a quick roundup of the picks, top 3 Maddison replacements. Bakar, I come to you first. Let's not mention Salah because it's obviously like a different bracket.
Trossard, Sterling, Bowen.
I'll just give a note on Sterling. I'm not convinced he also starts because what we did last night, we played him at right wing back and it was a completely failed experiment. I'm not sure he'll play. I think we're going to probably play Broya versus Brentford, maybe Havertz. So I do think this week Sterling is an X minutes risk. Pranil?
Rashford, Sinisterra, and then probably Trossard.
I think.
I'm not saying Bowen because I feel like you want Saka, Foden when you're spending 8 million. That's all.
I'm going to say a name you won't probably like, Almiron. The fixtures aren't bad. Everton, you have Tottenham away, and then you have Villa, Southampton, and then Chelsea also, which is at St. James Park. Last game before the World Cup, rotation, etc. might be an issue. I don't mind that Almiron pick.
I actually don't look at Chelsea as a very tough fixture because you look at yesterday. I mean, Kepa was insane.
Mr. Purple Patch.
Treated actually of like around 2. I mean, maybe it's the lack of Reece James. I don't know what it was, but I mean, for someone like Asaka, I was looking at that fixture in Gameweek 15 and suddenly it doesn't really look that difficult anymore.
Does Pakistan have a Miss Universe, Bakar? You need to get on that shit ASAP in those DMs.
Let's just circle back on Almiron because I know that we're going to have a chat and Danny and Baker are both going to text me. So worth mentioning is the situation last week and this week with Almiron has changed. Why I thought Almiron wasn't an FPL pick was because I was like, okay, in a week or two, Isak is going to be playing one side and St. Max is going to be playing one side. Now, St. Max has a hamstring injury again. Isak, who mentioned, is not going to feature until the World Cup. So now he's nailed in that front 3 for Newcastle. Now that's a different ballgame altogether. Yes, he becomes a pick then at that point.
Right. So my picks, Almiron, Trossard. And the third one, I don't really know, probably Bowen. But again, the short-term fixtures are really bad. Maybe Eze at Palace don't look great. It's really scraping the barrel.
All right, cool. I like that we're very diverse in our options and selections for this Maddo replacement.
Probably Sinisterra, I think, would be the third, just going back. Because United, again, I look at the fixtures. What do you guys do? You guys are doing Tottenham, Chelsea. Even West Ham are going to park the bus. Villa are going to park the bus. I don't like the run too much.
Exactly.
Right.
Also, one thing about mentioning with West Ham, that Liverpool fixture is again worth targeting because at the moment they have problems at the back. I don't know what the status is with Zuma and Dawson at the moment. So if they're unfit again, that's a riddled West Ham defense.
We don't know
that
if Zuma
Liverpool are
has
gonna
COVID. He was put into isolation over the weekend. So if he follows the usual protocol, I think it's 5 days now. I think he will miss this one. Probably be back for the weekend. But those have him, I would still keep him up. You weren't expecting anything really at Liverpool anyway, but the fixture was after are still good.
Also, what do you think about Zaha? A lot of people are mentioning Zaha because we own him. That's why we're not looking at him as an option. But where do you rank Zaha in all of this?
But
I
don't
rank him
buy.
very highly, actually. If I didn't have Trossard, I'd probably go with. If I had Trossard already, I probably would have gone with Zaha. I mean, he still remains a good pick. The fixtures are too good. I mean, for example, if I was on a wildcard, I won't pick him. But I mean, still remains a good pick despite the recent blanks.
It's like a don't buy, don't sell. I know we say that often, but that's what he feels like because he's been shifted out wide. He was very uninvolved. And I think with Edward playing well, the chances of him going back central are diminishing.
Also, want to ask you one, guys. It's probably a question for Thursday. But let's say you own Maddison and Zaha when you're into game week 12. And these are the only two players you can probably sell for a Saka or Foden. Now, both these guys have good fixtures in game week 12. How do you deal with the situations?
In 13, you mean?
In 13.
13, yeah.
In 13, I think what I'm actually planning, my original plan was to sell both of these guys for Saka and Foden. But what I will probably do now, I'll probably hold Zaha because Maddison's fixtures, again, I'm not going to keep Maddison because the fixtures after are dodgy. I wouldn't mind Zaha if other fires rise up in my team. His 14 is Southampton. It's not that bad. And he does have Forest in 16. So if necessary, I don't mind holding Zaha. But Maddison over long term is after 13, his fixtures are quite poor.
And as of today, who are you buying first?
Foden.
The Bakar? Who would you lose first and who would you buy first?
I'd lose Maddison first, exactly for the same reasons that Zoph said. Who would I buy first? This is a difficult question because if I was buying one for just game week 13 alone, and if I had the funds to move from like Zaha to Saka later, that's what I would do. But I'm not really sure where I will have that luxury of picking two midfielders in 2 weeks. So if I was buying one, I would probably go with Saka for 2 weeks just because of that Nottingham Forest fixture at home for Arsenal in game week 14, is it? Yes, but I really want him. So it depends on in which position I am in. If I had the luxury of picking both, then I would pick Foden first.
Man City
Neither
are going
of
to
you
be
would take a
angry.
hit to get the.
Man City
neither
are
of
going
you
to be
would get
angry, guys. We need to get on Man City on 13. They'll be stewing all week. And against Brighton, De Zerbi is a whole big fan of Guardiola. He went and watched him train and all that stuff. He's not going to park the bus at the Etihad. We need to get on Man City first, not Arsenal.
I'm with you on that, but I'm not against the idea of taking a hit. Because
I get that, but that's why my point is Foden, I think, needs to be top priority. I'm very clear on that.
I agree. With Saka, you also have the option of maybe switching a striker to Gabriel Jesus as well. Like that's something that we'll save that for Thursday.
Exactly. I think we're digressing a little bit. Now, a lot of guys are going to be wildcarding next week. So let's just do a quick roundup of 1 week punts in each position. Let's just do like one pick, I think. Listen, there's no point doing 3 or maybe a couple if you guys have in mind. Let's start in defense first. Pranal?
Yes. 1 week punt for defense. 1 second. Let me just quickly look at
Has
the
to be
fixtures.
Brighton, right? I think probably Brighton and Newcastle have the best fixtures for clean sheet.
Yeah, but I would say
go with
Trent or Robbo.
I would go with Trent.
Even Liverpool, yeah. I would say
Trent or
X minutes I worry about. Let's see the press conference. If the press conference gives all clear,
If press
probably Liverpool
Yeah,
guys.
that's the upside.
The upside is definitely there. If not the Brighton guys,
Yeah, Brighton guys.
because Newcastle, you have to be careful of the rotation. Last time there was a short turnaround, he changed almost the entire back four. He rotated the centre backs as well. So it's a bit iffy going with the Newcastle.
I think
guys.
Dunk. If
Dunk,
Trent is not an
Webster,
option.
etc.
Robertson, even. I mean, I don't mind Robertson, to be honest.
Again, X minutes with the turnaround. Liverpool, you have to keep in mind the turnaround is quite tricky. And especially because it wasn't a normal game yesterday. Full blood and thunder.
They
full
ran their
energy.
socks off. Oh my God, they ran so much. They would have been tired as hell after that.
Yeah,
Massive shift from Liverpool.
That's the
Yeah,
only
the
thing.
short
Classic
turnaround
Pep though,
is
right?
the problem.
I mean, he did that when he gifted you all the Champions League as well. Overthinking in big games, like it's almost like it's difficult to, trust Pep in these incredibly big games because he does stupid, weird management things, which is completely beyond any of our understanding. But just, I'd say that if he kept things simple and played his normal system, they would have probably done better in the game.
Fair enough. Let's now move on to midfield. 1 week punts again over here. Mine would still be Trossard.
Mine would still be Trossard.
Yeah.
Anything else? Because it seems
Has to be
pretty obvious. Let's give people one more. A lot of guys are interested in Liverpool, maybe with Jota injured. There's possibly Carvalho on the radar, but Carvalho feels like a coverage pick to me.
Yeah, no. I mean, how much do we know about him as a goal scorer? I'd go Sinisterra.
Yep. Sinisterra is good. Maybe even Harvey Barnes with Leeds. I like that.
Yeah, I was going to
fixture
say
as well.
Harvey Barnes. Yeah, Harvey Barnes probably.
I don't know about that. I think Leeds will completely kill Leicester. Leeds are a
Newcastle
good
at
team.
home. I think Newcastle at home you have to look at, right? They're just putting up
Almiron,
monster
Almiron.
XG numbers at home.
And Everton have been not that good in the last 2-3 weeks. So yeah,
Probably
I would say Almiron would be up there as well. I don't like Harvey Barnes because I think Leeds are a much better team as things stand.
I know Maddison also in the injured room.
Yeah.
That's a fair shout. Now let's look at up top. Mine would probably be Callum Wilson.
Yeah. Wilson or Darwin?
Oh,
That's where I
Darwin,
am.
correct. Probably Darwin, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move
Let's
that.
do Reece James replacements.
Reece James. Again, we have to look at the long term. And I still think you should be taking out money out of defense rather than putting money in there. I guess the only guys you could probably go for are the Liverpool guys. There's no point mentioning Trippier, Cancelo. Anybody else stand out? But let's talk about Doherty. Do you guys think should you get in him now?
We in fact just got tagged in our Discord where Conte just said in his press conference that we have another training session to decide. I prefer to play with a 3-4-3, but we'll see. In my idea, we worked a lot with this system. Lucas is recovering from his injury. Gill is progress. And I have Ivan Perisic who can play like a striker. Now that quote is quite telling because he's probably hinting that if Kulusevski and Kulusevski and Richarlison are not fit, he's open to playing Perisic in a
On the
front three
wing.
now that he has Doherty and Cess as wing backs as well. So, and that's quite intriguing because again, I think he was very, very bullish on Perisic after the game as well. And like in my notes when I'm watching Match of the Day, watching highlights, I was like, get Perisic for game week 14 because I'm really, really interested in him. So I don't mind. I feel like the fitness things are done. I don't mind just going Reece down to Perisic more so than Doherty.
Bakar, can you stand up for us? I'm pretty sure you got wood hearing that. As a Perisic owner. I could see your face. I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get back to
No,
top.
I'm not entirely. I'm not entirely convinced that Perisic is a better pick than Doherty because Doherty is like 1 million cheaper, and it seems to me that Sessegnon will be more of a risk to Perisic than Emerson will be to Doherty because I think that Doherty is clearly the first choice right back at this point in time. While on the left, it's not as clear because Sessegnon's been playing really well as well. So I do think that Perisic should start this week, but again, after this week, it's anyone's guess as to what happens. I don't think this is the time to buy Doherty simply because it's United this week, and you'd probably expect United to score. And then after this week, when Emerson is coming back, he would have had a week's rest, and it's a short turnaround again. I think so. There's a good chance that Doherty could miss the weekend game as well. So for the next 2 game weeks, I think he's avoidable.
I mean, you can look at FPL and say that he's playing here, and this is what this is. That's one thing, and I'm just parking another thought where I'm watching the game. Perisic just looks like the better player who looks like he could be more involved in the goals. And that's why
I hope you're right.
That's why I'm like, I just like the thought of Perisic. It's my instinct that I think if I was to move from James today, I'd probably just go Perisic and chill with him until 16. Because I think, we've been talking about those double-digit hauls for a while. I think now they're brewing. I think they're very, very close. And there are a couple of really strong fixtures.
Yeah.
If you get Perisic playing those games, there could be a goal and a clean sheet. 15 pointers.
So close to
Bournemouth
scoring.
in 14 and Leeds in 16.
Yeah, exactly.
I like Perisic. I don't agree with the point you made about Doherty being first choice right back, Bakar. I think Emerson definitely has a Conte sex tape or something. Conte just keeps playing him regardless.
That's true, but that was at a point where Doherty wasn't fit, and now when you look at the games, he's been very complimentary of his performances. The way he hugged him, even when he subbed him off, I just get the feeling that Doherty is clearly the first choice at this point in time.
X Hugs is going to be a metric now, Bakar. Come on, he's making it up to him after the comment he made about, like, I know it was taken out of
No, I
context
mean,
about
he's
getting lost, but
you have to
come on.
also factor in the fact that last season both Emerson, when both were fit and Doherty had the match fitness and he was getting back in form, he was the clear first choice. So I assume we're getting to that point again.
What if you guys had to go cheaper, like 4.6, 4.5 million or below with that price, assuming you want to spend money up front?
Gehi.
Yes, because this is a very pertinent question to myself as well. So it basically leaves you with the option of the Newcastle defense, the Palace defense, or the Brighton defense. There are a lot of people who've doubled up on Pope and Trippier. So in that case, I won't recommend a triple up. It's simple as that. As Zoph said anyway, there's a chance that he rotates in midweek because that's what he did in the past. So I'm not entirely convinced whether Scher or Botman are 100% nailed for the upcoming game week. I prefer the Palace defense to the Brighton defense simply because Brighton, even though they have the better clean sheet odds this week, but after this week they have City and Chelsea in 13 and 14, which is why I would rather go with the Palace defender because they offer that extra bit of security in case you need them for starts. And I mean, they're playable in pretty much every week till the World Cup begins. And Kehi's the cheapest, so I prefer him over Anderson.
I think game week 12 should be the last defensive transfer you make. With now 5 game weeks to go, you shouldn't be spending further transfers. Get someone who you know will not be a problem for the next 5 weeks.
Unless you want Perisic in 14. Just pen that down because you'll want him in 14. I just have a feeling he's about to explode.
You'll want the Arsenal guys in 14 who have play Forest, right?
You probably want to go earlier, but defensive point of view, I just feel like Perisic is one transfer we might think of spending in the future. Even if Zoph, it's the same Mo Salah syndrome for you. If Trent is showing leg and getting a goal, assist, and a clean sheet in that game against West Ham, there's no way you're not getting him in 13. Like, so there are certain defenders for which we can maybe think about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't agree with this statement that this should be the last defensive choice.
That's what I think, because there's there's 5 fixtures to target now, and assuming you're not going to take a hit. They're good like attackers. You bring in City guys 13, Arsenal 14, then West Ham are good 15, 16. It doesn't seem
that's true. But when you look at the Spurs fixtures, as we mentioned, Bournemouth and Leeds, you'd want a wing back there.
So you buy them now.
Looks like starting.
My point is you buy them now. Then my point is if you want the Spurs guy, you buy them now.
I'm not really sure whether they're going to start in 13.
So you take it on the chin.
Doherty,
you take that on the chin. That's my point. You get the transfer in, you take it on the chin and set it now. The next 4 weeks, you chase hauls and attack.
But I just want to mention, if I was going cheap though, I'd go Botman. I just feel like there is a massive difference
went
in
off injured, right? Last game, I think he did at the end.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that. I just feel like there is a considerable difference between Newcastle United and the other guys in that 4.5 million or under bracket, and they're just comfortably one of the best defenses in the league at the moment. So just go there. We don't do eggs and baskets on you.
Fair enough. Cool. Now, let's now move on to the captaincy discussion, and I think for all 3 of us going to be Salah, but I wanted to have a wider discussion now. Let's say if you own Kane, ticking along every week with points, do you now rip your team up to move Kane to Salah? Bakar, you first.
I mean, it's hard to say that for a player who hasn't blanked since Game Week 1, but I think for a lot of Kane owners, that's the only realistic route they have to Salah, right? And in FPL, you don't really look at historical points. It's all about, the weeks to come. And I do think that Salah will outscore Kane, and he offers a better captaincy option in the times to come. And the fixtures for Liverpool are great, as we spoke about. I think I would do it. I'd sell Kane to Salah.
Pranit?
Yeah.
I would probably do it, but I think about it a lot harder than I did after watching the last game, because the last game is the best Harry Kane performance I've seen in a while. Like that 3-5-2, if Conte persists with that 3-5-2, it suits Kane to the T. Because, I mean, I was looking at the stats. He had 13 touches inside the box, which is the most he's had all year. And he looked a lot sharper than I've seen him this year. And when Bissouma came on in the next 20 minutes, I read a stat, they created 8 chances. In 20 minutes, they created 8 chances as soon as Bissouma came on. So that 3-5-2 formation is meant for Harry Kane. And I mean, I was reading stats that Neil did on a scout notes as well. It's been a year. It's been 38 games since Conte has happened. Harry Kane has 25 goals, 12 assists, 250 FPL points. Like proven, sorted manner. So now, how you weigh that is for you to decide, but I'd still get Mo Salah. It's worth mentioning that.
I agree with you guys in the point. I would make it strikers are firing. Even if you drop Kane, you have alternatives in there. I know Tony's on 4 yellows, but you have Wilson, Mitrovic, etc. You have other budget forwards.
Dom Solanke.
Solanke is a given. Solanke is inevitable. So my point is you can sort of get those points, right? Like I've not owned Kane. I've had Isaac and I moved him to Tony, and I'm probably like 3-4 points behind if I had Kane in that slot. So the alternatives are then you just look at the fixtures for Liverpool: West Ham, Forest, Leeds, and then Southampton to end the season, with the whole feel-good factor that's going to come. And it was interesting that I've already gotten Salah, full disclosure. When I posted my team yesterday, got a few comments saying, oh, you're only buying him because he scored yesterday. Anyone who's listened to the pod knows that's not the case.
That's not the case at all. If Salah was like this and if he just did this, Zoph was buying him.
Absolutely right. So I think we're all in the... Let's now look at alternatives though. We have to... People who are not going to do that move, we have to suggest alternative captaincy options. Give me 2, Pranil.
Wilson, number 1 for me.
Wilson and Trossard?
Wilson. Also, if you're... I think Darwin plays midweek. If you want to target the West Ham fixture, I'm not against a Darwin captaincy. If you're going that way, I think given the injuries to Jota and Diaz, expecting Darwin to get 4 games in the next 5, or at least 3.5 games in the next 5. Like, if you want to buy a Darwin, you would want to do it if you're worried about minutes in a situation where Diaz and Jota we're not sure about them being fit, etc. It almost points towards him doing that. So his expected minutes goes up. I'm fairly confident about the game against West Ham. So Darwin and Wilson would be my top.
He has a lot of making up to do after not making that pass.
Yeah.
He must be apologizing to his teammates. And I think another name we could throw in there is Mitrovic. Because I guess a lot of people would already own him. You might not own a Wilson or a Trossard, but I'm pretty confident Mitrovic will start. And everything just goes towards him. We saw that. Go ahead.
I'm a little worried about the Mitrovic captaincy shot because he mentioned the painkillers, the injections, etc. He didn't look fully fit. So that is the slight worry in my head. Like if you're looking at outside shots, I'd be much more comfortable maybe captaining a Trippier, home game against Everton, free kicks, bonus points, a decent base of 6 points, or a Solanke also, because I thought Southampton were abysmal at the back. So I'd probably rate those picks over Mitrovic just because of the injury is something I'm worried about. And again, if you're thinking about Villa are pretty decent in defense. If you take out the mistakes that Mings has in him, they're not like a open like a Brentford.
Did Mings get
team,
injured? I remember reading somewhere Mings got injured. I don't remember exactly. I might be wrong.
I don't remember either. Bakar, where are you on captaincy? Who would you rank outside of Salah?
I'd probably go with Nunes as the second pick, then Wilson, then Kane, then Trossard. I wouldn't consider Solanke. I mean, that's quite a stretch. No chance I'd go there. 6 returns from an XGI of nearly 1. No chance.
Yeah. I like all the names you guys mentioned.
I'm just going to take my points and run very soon.
With Nunes, again, I'm not even sure a lot of people will own him. So I'm not going to go into recommending him too much. Because I don't want, you make the transfer. Because right now, the strikers are all performing so well. I can't even honestly make the case for buying Nunes too much.
It's the biggest opportunity there is. What are you telling me? I mean, you're talking about a Liverpool team that's fully attacking, and now you have 2 people injured, and the turnaround is short.
That's not the point I'm making. My point is, do you bring in Nunes just to captain him?
Yes. If you can't afford Salah, why not? If you can't go the Salah way, I think it's worth it.
I think they are you could possibly get away with just doing a Mitrovic or like a Trippier. I think rather than bring in Nunes, captain him for them. I'm not completely enamored.
I mean, what's changed? I mean, every time he's still been on the pitch, he's still hogging that XG for an incredibly attacking Liverpool team. So what's changed?
X vibes are not good from that, not making that pass.
Just the pass, but that
just I'm telling you,
from
just
the chances he gotten.
The vibe I'm not getting is not good. I might be completely wrong, and again, full X vibes. But yeah, I'm not feeling that too much.
And it's good that we are having this debate because it's good to be on both sides of the pitch because then our listeners get to decide,
Because when that happens, you try too hard, etc., etc. And right now, it just seems that everything might go towards Salah, and I don't know. But again, not too bad.
In the 2 games before that, he got 2 and 2. Like it's not like he's on a dry spell or whatever. He's got 2 goals in the previous 2 games as well. So
fair enough. I think that's about it.
Yes, and let's wrap up very quickly, guys, because we want to keep it a short pod.
Don't send in your super chats, guys. We're just going to discuss our teams. There'll be no Q&A at the end, so please don't send any super chats in.
Yeah. But there are 1,250 of you watching. It'd be really, really nice if you could just hit the like and subscribe button. It really, really helps us. And all we want you to do is take a second to click that button. Is how you can support us. If you want to go above and beyond when it comes to supporting us, you can also become a member to our YouTube channel. You pay either $3, $6, or $9 a pounds a month. And nothing changes. It's just about how much you want to support. You can also become a Patreon and support us on patreon.com/the FPL Wire. And basically what happens is that gives you access to our Discord where we hang, and it's just a good place to be, especially if you're tired of Twitter. So yeah, support us. Let's go back to our teams.
Yeah, I'll be dropping in later to do a Q&A with the Discord guys since we are not doing it post-dinner. Cool. Let's do my team first. It's Pope in goal, Trippier, Zuma, Gehi, Neco Williams defense, Andreas, Zaha, Maddison. I already used my transfer on KDB to Salah, literally at full time. Tuck, 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 tuck. Couldn't wait. He needed to come in. Mitrovic, Tony with Ward, Cancelo, Martinelli, Haaland on the bench. I have about 1.9 in the bank, one free transfer left. I'll probably be going Maddison to Trossard for 1 week. It makes sense. I think with having a free transfer, it's all right to go with the 1 week punt, I think.
Yeah.
This is now with James. Which one of you guys still has James? Bakar, this is you.
Bakar.
This is me. Yeah. Yeah. I have Pope in goal, James, Trippier, Perisic, Neco Williams, Zaha, Maddison, Salah, Andres, Mitrovic, Solanke. Martinelli, Haaland, Cancelo will be on the bench. I have 0.6 million in the bank and 2 free transfers. So obviously now that I have 9 playable players, I obviously have to target selling James and Maddison. That's fairly obvious with 2 free transfers and 0.6 in the bank. Now, this is something I actually like to pick your brains on because I'm not entirely sure as to the route I will take with my squad. There are like 3 or 4 ways I can go with my squad. The first is that I can. Most of the options involve getting Trossard, so let's just put Maddison to Trossard on the side because that's something that's very, very likely to happen. But for the defensive transfer, I'm not entirely sure. The first thing I can go for is like I can get Gehi in, but that basically gives me the flexibility to get Saka and Foden later because it gives me a lot of cash. If I go for the Liverpool defender, then I can't get to Foden. Now that's the problem that I'm contemplating and thinking whether I go for Robertson or Trent. If I go with Trent, I can't get to Foden or Saka in one move next week. I'll have to take a hit next week. If I get Robertson, I can get Saka next week, but I can't get Foden. So it's just something that's playing in my head as to whether or not go with the upside of the Liverpool fullback.
I'd go Gehi.
I ain't telling you shit, Bakar. I keep telling you to do good shit and you do stupid shit.
Go Zoph. That's why I ended up with more points than you this week.
Yeah, but I can't see you that far down the league table though. You're what, like 30 points behind?
Oh,
I haven't counted.
that 2 points burn in game week 2 is coming back to bite you right now.
Oh, yeah.
But Bakar,
I wasn't hitting this last season's off. Where were you last season?
Yeah, that's because you were listening to me last season.
I'll let you have your moment in the sun.
Just don't
but
be
Bakar,
calling
I'd prioritize Foden and Saka over the Liverpool fullbacks as things stand, and it's not close.
I can get Saka with Robertson. That's the thing.
I just think those. So whatever you do, those guys are more important to get than your Liverpool fullbacks, in my opinion.
Let's just dial back and have this discussion. Somebody asked us in our Discord this morning, if you have already 3 Arsenal, like your Saka, Saliba, what do you do? Sell?
Hold them. No, hold them. It's good to be ahead next week because there are not enough strong picks this week. It's okay. Have 1 player less. That player is probably going to be a shitter like Gueye. He's going to hit 2 or 3 points next week. So just like see it off. It's okay.
I would probably hold on to Saka. I would probably hold on to Saka and Saliba, but if I had Jesus, I'd probably sell him just because of the strikers slots that are available.
No, man. Gabby J is such a good differential in 13. I wouldn't do it.
I'd sell Jesus, but simply because of the upgrades that the cheaper options are allowing for at this point in time.
I think out of the lot, Jesus is the one I'd be inclined to sell because increasingly now the Saka is looking like the talisman.
Just outcome, boys. Just because
Not
Jesus
outcome,
has a good one.
underlying numbers, an eye test, buddy.
I wouldn't sell Jesus. Like I think it's a great differential to own next week, especially because the strikers are doing well. Like that's all.
Cool.
I think we have 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Your team, real quick.
Your team.
Okay. Pope, Neko, Trippier, Webster. I don't know how. I mean, I got Webster, but fair enough. Salah, Captain, Maddison, Zaha, Andreas, Marshall, and Mitro. So I'm currently with 8 or 9 based on what Marshall's injury status is like. If Marshall looks like he could be injured and not fit for the game against Spurs, I'm probably looking at the Darwin switch. I've got like 2 million in bank. If not, I'm looking at Maddison to either Sinister or Rash.
Cool. Let's wrap up.
Yeah. That's where I'm right now. Anything could happen. I could still sell Patterson for a Gueye as well. If I want to hold Maddison and get Foden Saka next week, I'm open to that also.
Cool. Thanks for joining us, guys. Short pod today. We'll probably be back again on Thursday. Anything last words, boys?
No, that's it. Make sure you're hitting the like button, guys. Please just
Thanks
do
for
that
the
and help us.
support.
And we will see you on Thursday, same time, similar style, shortish pods. See you then. Good luck this week, guys.
Good luck.
Good luck.